Hey, co-op moms, I just wanted to record a little video on my screen, hopefully this is working, to show y'all a few things that you might find useful. Some of the stuff you may already know, maybe something you'll find useful. So I'm going to do two videos. This one is on the website itself, and then I think the next one I'm going to do on looking at different documents I've sent you. So I'm on the Lampstand Press website, so tapestryofgrace.com, and I think I'm already signed into my account, so I'm going to click on year one, which we're doing this year. Okay, and so this comes up, maybe you've already watched that video. There were, I think, some videos down here at the bottom, teacher training resources. I remember when we first started Tapestry the first year or so, I really benefited from these videos, and they didn't used to be free. I'm pretty sure I bought a couple of them. So if those are free and it's something that you can watch, you might want to peruse those when you have a chance. Okay, so coming to this, let's look at where some stuff is. If you go to Unit 1, so that's coming up there. And then the stuff that I've purchased since I'm signed in is coming up. So here's integrated. I'll click on that in a minute and we'll look at it. Here's map aids, for example. So you can get your maps there. I'm going to click on integrated year 1, unit 1. And that'll take a second to download. Okay, so let's look at this. If you come over here to this little box, click on that, and it'll come up. And then if you click on the little dot with the lines, that is super convenient. I'm not crazy about the new interface compared to the old, or some parts of it, but this I really like compared to the old. So this shows Unit 1, and I can just click that, and here's 1, week 1, here's 2, here's 3. And notice all the different parts that you can jump to. The reading assignments are going to come up then. Let me make this a little bit smaller. That'll come up. You can jump straight to Dialectic, and that's going to show you the Dialectic information. Let me go back to week 1 and just kind of go over some of that. So we have talked about different things like reading assignments and stuff, or I've talked with some of you about that on the phone and also on email. One of the things I like to start with my students is, sorry, now I say that, I'm not going to find it right. Okay, I'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, let's go to reading assignments. So here's reading assignments. Okay, so I had put on the email that I sent you the syllabus. In the syllabus is a book list. That book list contains a lot of the books that are going to be required this year, that your student's going to need in order to successfully do dialectic history this year. I don't think all of them are on there, but a lot of them are on there. You don't have to buy all the books at one time, but Tapestry is very literature and reading focused, so it doesn't really use a lot in the way of textbooks. It's mainly using sort of real living books is kind of the point of it. So if you look at week 1, for example, here's early times, the story of ancient Egypt, and then also technology in ancient Egypt. And it shows you here week 1 of 3, these two books are going to be used for 3 weeks. Okay, so this is History Core and History In Depth. There's other stuff down here, but we're going to focus on history. If we go to the next page, notice at the top, it says alternate or extra resources. So this is where some other alternate or extra resources are going to be. So for example, let's say you don't have technology in ancient Egypt, and maybe you have an older child and you have this book, The Ancient Egyptians, that I think they used to use. Well, you could certainly use that instead. It's also going to be for 3 weeks. They also have streams of civilization pages that are suggested, but that's always an extra or an alternate resource. Like I said, Tapestry is never going to have a textbook, or for the most part, for both dialectic and rhetoric, middle school and high school, it's not going to have a textbook that's going to be the core history reading. That's just kind of a supplement, maybe if you happen not to have the book that week. So it's fine to have, but I wouldn't rely on it on a week-by-week basis, because it goes more, the questions are going to be more in depth than that. If you are using a spine sometimes and you have younger children, I think the story of the world is really just about as good as Streams of Civilization, honestly. Having used both of those over time, I think Story of the World is pretty good. So certainly for a 6th or 7th grader, I would not dismiss using that if you already have it instead of Streams of Civilization. But like I said, for the most part, you're going to want to focus on the history core and the history in depth. Okay, and then something that we talk about a lot in dialectic history and in rhetoric is the AQ-TQ. You're familiar with that. Accountability questions, thinking questions, AQ-TQ. So the place you're going to go for that, student activities, you're going to go to dialectic. And then here you have the accountability questions and the thinking questions. And your student, unless they're an 8th grader, it's pretty rare that they would be doing all those questions every week. This has 5 and then 4, so 9 questions total. Pretty rare. What they're going to have on the assignment page, maybe this would be a good time to look at that actually, rather than doing a separate video. If I go back to the course objectives and expectations, I have that pulled up here. If you go down to the bottom of that, there's the Unit 1 assignment chart and notes. Let's open that. Okay. So these level 6, level 7, level 8, this refers to the AQ-TQ. Now you can see weeks 1 and 2, that's at home, right? So you're going to choose the questions you want your child to answer. You may choose to have them just answer those orally. They don't need to bring written questions from week 1 and week 2. But starting with week 3, they will need to bring those. So let me skip to week 3, since that's kind of where we're starting our actual meetings. Okay, so here's the week 3 dialectic level AQ-TQ, right? You're going to have this in your curriculum, or you should have it in your curriculum, and then you're going to look at the year 1, unit 1 schedule, and based on the level of your kid, your student, you're going to see the minimum sort of questions they're supposed to do. So if you have a level 6er like I do, AQ1 and 2 and TQ1 are the only 3 questions they're really asked to answer in written form that week. They're going to bring those to co-op and show them to the assistant who's checking, and then we kind of go from there. So level 7 gets a little bit more, and then level 8 oftentimes has all the questions, but not always. And what that refers to, level 6 does about 50% of the questions, level 7 about 75%, and level 8 about 100% of the questions. Okay. So that's what that refers to there. You can also see this has geography on it. I'm trying to see if we had a map that week for week 3. Yeah, one map. The Israelites leave Egypt. We can look at the maps here in a moment. But the geography then is mentioned there as well. So I hope that kind of clears up what's AQ-TQ. How do I know which ones my kids are supposed to do, for example? Where do we get the reading? The deal with the reading, kind of back to that, there is no one sort of master tapestry reading list. And I know that would be handy to have, but there would be so many books on it, it would be completely overwhelming, for one thing. Also, the problem that Tapestry has is that they want to have these real books, which is great, these living books, but they go out of print on a regular basis. And so the technology in ancient Egypt, for example, I don't have that particular book because when my next child up, who's now 16, was in middle school, they were using a different book. And so I'm going to use that book, which covers the same material, and I have the page numbers that I need to use for that. So if you have an older book, there are such things as a reconciliation chart, and I think I have that here, just an example of one. Yeah. So if you're using an older book, Early Times, The Story of Ancient Egypt, in a different edition, for example, there's a reconciliation chart that shows you what page numbers you would be using based on the edition that you have. Okay, so Tapestry has those with the curriculum as well. They're not as easy to find as they used to be, but Tapestry does have it. Okay, let me, Let's have that be all for this video, and then I'll come back and hop on with another one that looks at these things right here if you're interested in that, and also talks a little bit more about the maps. Okay, I hope this was helpful.